Once upon a time, there was a man. This man believed that the world was very broken, and he believed that it was people's fault. This man believed that to make things better, he needed to make things the way they were. Maybe sounds a little too familiar now in 2021, which is absolutely a science fiction year. The idea that what was needed was a return to the way things were. Now, this particular set of way things were was older, from a time when the hand on the universal tiller was a little firmer. And what he and his friends believed was that if they brought the world back under the leadership that was there before things got bad, that it would be better again. If we can just make things the way they were, everything would be better. It is a refrain that has sponsored many terrible things in the history of this species. In this case, it inspired many, most of which are boring, mundane, and unpleasantly repeatable. One of their unique ones, though, was ensuring that some bloodlines remained. You see, because there are those who believe that divinity comes from rulership, or that lordship begets divinity, and that to return the world to the way it was, the first step was to place those that were back at the top of it. Now, sometimes this was easy. Some were whoremongering profligates. So that was easy. That was just really a matter of tracking down who was who. Some were a little bit harder. Some were in exile. Some were fleeing. Some were bastard children that had been sent to America, their parents never telling them who they were. But not everything goes easily. Sometimes you have someone that doesn't want to have kids. Maybe it's because their mental state isn't the kind that desires procreation. Maybe their sexual preferences are not a reproductive one. Well, what people want isn't really included in the calculus of what the world needs. And an injustice was committed that we will not delve into the specifics of, but while the mechanism was rather unique, the intent and the nuts and bolts of it are regrettably too common. So once upon a time, a man summoned a creature and had him invade someone and steal what was theirs and take it to another creature down in a dark, terrible, scary place. And he had him make a baby. The problem is, apparently, they made more than one. This is a surprise. This is news. This is front page news in the Van Horst Gazette. We knew for a long time that Bethany's circumstances of her birth were up in the air. That's not a new secret. But apparently, she's got a serial number. And that's very new. And it weighs heavy on her mind as a dinner is finished in the Tropicana Hotel in 1957, as lots of the United States wrestle with the occurring endless struggle with desegregation. That's this year. That's this time. And so many other things are happening, and there is a bomb that is going to go off very soon. And you are on a timer. But what are you thinking about right now? And did you actually eat anything tonight?
think Bethany tried.
Fair.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of food to wash down the nerves and a fair amount more alcohol.
More food means more booze, so yes.
Okay. So it's less about the taste and more about its sponge factor?
Yes, and there's also a certain level of, you have to order something that is, you can't just like, if you're going to order something that's fancy, you want to probably eat most of it.
Yeah, it's... Sometimes you get lucky and the food smells good enough to overcome what you're wrestling with. Sometimes that's not true. Does Bethany have an appetite right now?
I think it's a bit neutral. It's not in the I absolutely couldn't eat a thing, food is bad space.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like I'm so hungry because I have to, I don't know, I haven't eaten, and also I have to plan for this ridiculous confrontation and I'm worried about other things. So I think food was eaten because food was there.
The automatic reflexes of a living being.
Yeah.
You've got some things on your mind, Bethany. Did you share them, or are you going to share them with your siblings?
Hasn't shared them yet. And so as dinner concludes, she looks up at Clara and says, I have concerns.
All right. We should talk about tonight anyway and make some plans. And we're here. That's why we ate in tonight. Talk to us. What's wrong? I mean, other than the fact that you have another copy of you out there.
I don't know how many there are, and I don't know. I mean, I assume they were made like I was made, but I don't really know the mechanics of that or how or why, and I don't know what making multiple me's did to me.
You're you.
But
love, you're you.
They're kind, like, we're still connected in some way. One of them showed up when I did a magic thing, I don't know, and this other one is trying to kill us. And there's definitely more than two out there. I know that, and I don't know if they're also me. I don't, like...
They're connected to you, but they're not you.
But what does that connection mean? Like, why are we even connected? Like, I don't know, if you were a twin, you're a different person than your other twin. And I don't know, like, if I doubt that you can magically connect to or know about your other twinness the way that I guess I do with these Bethany's, not Bethany's. I don't...
Now, first, there have absolutely been stories about twins who knew one was hurt across a large amount of space and shouldn't have. I've heard the rumors. I've read articles about it before. I don't know that scientists have been on it, but I do think twins are connected. But Matthew was right. You were you. Even a dress is a hard way to put it, but if they make 5 copies of the same dress, once it's made, it has a totally different life. It looks different on people. It goes different places. It survives longer or shorter. It is the only dress of that nature, of that dress, once it's bought off a shelf.
But
Your life is yours.
but a dress doesn't have a soul.
If your soul is in some way connected to them, it still doesn't change the fact that your soul is also connected to us in a way that they aren't.
I'm worried. Not about that. I'm worried that we shouldn't have been more than one person, that I am fractured into all of these other bodies. I don't know. I don't want them to also be me.
Matthew will take her hand and look at her and just ask, is what you're saying that you want those pieces back?
If they're me, then yes. If having those pieces is what I was supposed to be, or makes me whole, or I don't know what they are in relation to me. I don't know if they are other people, or if we're all parts of each other, or if it's not that at all and they just made a bunch of copies and somehow what's in the copy doesn't matter. I don't know what it means, and I don't like it.
Matthew, I know you have some sort of sight.
Yes.
Could you look at me and look at Bethany and see if whatever is in her, whatever you can see of us, if hers is shattered or smaller or totally whole compared to mine as well?
I can try.
It's worth a try.
Oh, absolutely. He's gonna try. That's an interesting way of using creature's true nature, I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm all for it.
I mean, it's boss as hell. Yeah, I love it.
So he's gonna use magical intuition.
Yeah.
And the goal is to see a creature's true nature, specifically in this sort of context. And I guess he'll reach deep down into that delicious angel soul.
Don't roll a 9.
That's the goal. Okay. So that's definitely not a 9.
It's a 2.
Snake eyes. No. So I think I still have a wound, so I'm still at a -1. But I rolled a 5 and an 8, so that's good. So 13, then 12, then plus my soul of 2, so 14.
Right.
It would have been a 15 if it weren't for the fact that I'm wounded.
It's not a 9.
It's
Not a 9.
definitely not a 9.
What's the terrible but funny line? What D's get degrees?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
You get 2 options, and you get to put one in your back pocket until later this scene.
well, I'm going to be using both because I'm looking at each of them. So but
Okay.
I'm glad that I don't have to roll twice because that would have sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So he will first look at Clara as sort of an idea of getting a baseline. to better understand, like, assuming that Clara isn't also possibly one of many Claras. We don't know. But he's hoping that this isn't that. So he's going to look at Clara first, and just kind of focus and try to see beyond, to try to do what he's done before with, like, sort of seeing beyond who she is to what her self is.
Your first, well, the first question is how do you tell if an actress is only one person?
Right.
So you can get some shitty faux Buddhist crap out of this conversation. But what you really see is Clara, like, her aura seems to be complete. There is it generally seems like a whole being, that that Clara would prefer that things between you and her be different. That her perfect idea of the Matthew Clara literal relationship would have a different shape than what it is now. And Matthew, being her adopted brother, being her longest lover, and no one can take that from you. No cowboy can steal that particular distinction from you. You can recognize the places in Clara's being that are shaped from your nose.
You dick.
Love you too.
I could, like, visualize it so well in my head too, of, like, what that would look like. Ugh.
It's that only you can see it because you know the emotional shapes and the physical behaviors that have created them. But overall, I guess, she is a unique single-souled being who is generally a human. But there is a thing about Clara, looking at her now, perceiving her aura and kind of looking at the energy around her. At first glance, how you interact with viewing her aura and seeing her person at the same time, this kind of strange overlapping, is that you almost imagine that, like, there's this moment where you're like, is your makeup peeling? Like, did she put on too much foundation and, like, it's actually, like, some of it is smudging or cracking off, like one of those weird face masks that she puts on with, like, the big schmear? Like, what's, like, it's the initial response is the attempt to rationalize it within the context of your observations. But you have a sense of that, maybe a better description is a picture you saw once of who was the Phantom? Lon Chaney? Yeah. Of him showing how he was doing his makeup. And I mean the actual applique. The not just, frame the eyes, frame the lips, that stuff, the real heavy stuff. And there was a picture you saw of somebody doing that kind of makeup where part of their face was the covering and part of their face was the revealed human face. And so you have a sense that Clara's makeup is starting to flake off. There is something about her. There is a piece of her essence that is starting to show, but it's not, you can't tell what it is. That you can merely tell that there is a transmogrification underway.
I feel like, based on certain things that I know, Matthew kind of, like, looks at her and, like, watches her, and it's a little like too much looking, a little too intense because he's literally looking like through her. And he reaches out and like when he, without really thinking, and he ends with, you know, one hand that's cupping one side of her face, which was the side that he was seeing, you know, as the non-mask part. And I think his other hand is just resting on her stomach. For no real reason, I'm sure. And when he comes kind of back to himself, he kind of nods. This is okay.
You all right, my love?
He just smiles at her and says, "You're beautiful."
There is no astral indication that she is pregnant. There is no fluttering little glow down in the lower abdomen.
I was talking about the nose. I was talking about reaching out to the absence.
Yeah.
I was assuming there was not a flutter there.
I was
the reaction would have been very different.
McGurd.
But yeah, he will kiss her lightly and then move over to Bethany and similarly kind of look at her and then look through her.
It should not be a surprise that Bethany metaphysically is a complex thing to attempt to understand, even just visually. There's a lot of data going on. Imagine, if you will, being a student of elementary age and learning about math and learning about multiplication and division and all of those things and struggling to get those simple symbols into your head. You know, the multiplication symbol, the division symbol, all of those very simple glyphs of transmutation that turn numbers into other numbers. And you can comprehend them. And maybe you've got a sense that there is bigger math beyond them. You know, you ask a question of a teacher or of your tutor. Let's be honest, it's the Van Horsts. You ask a question of your tutor and you say, well, what about this situation? Or, you know, what about numbers that are less than 0? You know, one of those just innocent kid asking a math questions. And the teacher says something like, you know, we'll handle that next year. That's to come. Good question. Remember it for a couple weeks from now. Whatever those good educational responses are. To continue this analogy, looking at Bethany at this point is like looking up from your 4th grade math work and looking at Einstein's blackboard. You're like, well, there's numbers. I mean, clearly math is being done. I guess the same thing is happening, but I don't understand what's happening. Like, I imagine that someone who does, you know, there's a bunch of shit going on, and now we're going to kind of step away from the mathematical idea, but there's a lot going on, and you're not equipped to see all of it. But I guess the question is a spider web complete by itself? Or is it only complete when it is fulfilling its function? When is a spider web done? When its creator says, I am finished, or when the prey is trapped? And that is the sense primarily that you get from your sister. She is complete. But able to be added onto. There's a sense like or of a bobbin used for spinning. It is a complete item, but it is also fulfilling a function where it interacts with other things. So Bethany's complex, strangely more angular, fractal, mathematical aura is finished. There are no strange strands of unfinished soul stuff waving like anemone tentacles in the coral reef that give you a sense of being incomplete. But there is a capacity, an ability, an ability to catch or to contain or to wrap up. Bethany's a whole thing, but that thing can be interacted with. You get me?
Yeah, no, I get you.
Okay.
So Matthew looks at her and, like, similar but very different from Clara, there is a deep amount of love in his eyes. It is distinctly platonic. AKA, it's actually appropriate for someone looking at their sister. And he looks at her, and you can see that look in his eyes when, like, you know, when he was younger and they were all in classes together, and he always really excelled at, like, you know, a lot of the logic problems and the business problems and the math and things like that. And that moment where, like, there was something where it was a problem that was out of his reach to solve, and there was that sort of moment of, like, ooh, I'll get you eventually. Oh, I'll get you eventually. That sort of frustration that happens, but you can see him push that aside, because that's a tomorrow problem, right? And he looks at her and sees what he can see, you know, and understands what he can understand. And he says to her, "You're complete. You're whole, but you could be more. You could be more than any of us." But I'm not sure that the path to that is anything other than violence. Maybe not physical, but, well, we've already seen that we can have other types. But that's a choice.
Well, then, what do we think we should do about Demetria tonight?
She's been trying to kill us.
Yes, she has.
I feel like unless she has a very good reason and speaks very well for herself, removing her from the equation makes sense to me.
The only reason I can see us not dealing with Demetria in a way that means that Demetria is no longer a problem to us ever again is if she is better bait for a larger fish. I want to know if she is working for someone else or if she's working for herself, because we already know that she isn't powerful enough to be able to harm us in the way that she's been going after us without the aid of the explosions. Who taught her this? How did she learn this if she's essentially a smaller fry? And if we can use her to find our true enemies, that's the only reason I see in dealing with her as anything other than something to be erased. She is a threat. If we can use her and change her into something that is valuable to us, then we should. If not, we'll let her know the alternative.
I feel like a long interrogation and conversation is absolutely on the table. And then once we get all of the information out of her that we can, we deal with her as seems best.
Do we have somewhere to use? We certainly can't use here for a long interrogation and conversation.
Well, we'll know where she's going to be. And I'm assuming that one of the reasons she works those hours is that it's quiet. And as long as we don't go past that tree line in a specific way, or let her do that either, I feel like she'll have to be stuck in this place with us.
If that doesn't work, I don't know how we get access to chloroform. We could probably figure it out. Maybe we ask David. Put her in the trunk, and this is maybe my theatrical irony. We take her back to the damn house she tried to kill us in the first time.
Do we know whether or not that's been looked at? That's currently crawling with police still. That'd be my worry.
It might be. We could swing by there while we're on the way to the cemetery, just to check.
True.
It's also a vast amount of desert.
I was going to say there's a lot of empty space.
Yes.
That might be better. We just need to be prepared for that. I know that we've been bringing David for many things, but perhaps this is not best for him to come with us on, if we need to be prepared for this sort of thing. I, of course, always appreciate his backup, but I don't want to break him. He's not scared.
He's the one of us most experienced with violence and war. We probably could use him, but I've handled more than a few people over the last few years with not a soft touch, so I can probably manage it.
Do we want to have him drop us off at the cemetery and wait in a specific place in case we need him to be a driver? Or if we are going to have to kidnap this woman and need the trunk of the car, he could wait with the car somewhere else. Then he is only purely backup, and we needn't involve him in the magical messiness.
I'm fine with this if you think that he'd take it well.
I don't know.
I personally think he would take it better than us calling him in a rampant emergency, not having included him in what's going on, and begging him to clean blood and guts out of car again. I would rather be honest with him. He's a part of our family unit now.
Certainly, if he has concerns about us and our safety, denying him his place in keeping it, he might not appreciate.
I'll give you that. It's a difficult line to walk.
Yes.
It was easier when this was already something set up.
Yes.
Or when the monster already came finished in the box.
Yeah. He's trying to like move around the like, it'd be really great if he was just already like a finished monster instead of me having to deal with the moral quandaries of making him one. Sigh.
Yeah.
but yeah, he's swayed by that. So he'll agree. I mean, one of the things that we can also do, depending on the situation, is if there are any good mausoleums or sarcophagi in the area. Quite frankly, like that's a place to take someone, especially if there's no one else going to be in that area. But he has no idea how to get chloroform.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a doctor.
It's true. I've got a doctor, but it's hard to be like, hey, buddy, do you have some chloroform? Like, unless, was chloroform ever used at that time period to get high? Like huffing? That's the only way I can think of, like, not super suspiciously asking for chloroform, being like, hey, buddy.
I'm sorry, I've only been researching the history appropriate uses of heroin.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Same here.
They were lateraling into chloroform.
People in
Criminal
history. If I'm right on this, I will be astonished. I'm assuming that people didn't huff chloroform, Lord.
Well, it's not a good time.
I would assume it's not.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's not the best.
So I feel like getting chloroform from our doctor would be real difficult without looking real suspicious.
So weird. Yeah.
I mean, just quickly wikiing, it doesn't look like people huff chloroform for funsies.
No.
If only. It'd be so much easier.
Yeah.
It is a solvent. Like, you might just be able to get a shitty version of it at a hardware store. Which is where I assume other criminals get their things to do a crime.
I mean, I figured also that, like, it's a different medical world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 57 medicine is a real weird animal compared to 2021 medicine. I'm just going to be fucked up by that for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, generally, like, it's once Matthew gets back from a quick aside, it's like, I would tell him that if he rolled on influential people, referencing the doctor.
Dr. Nolte.
Dr. Nolte, yeah, who flew in from Pittsburgh and is kind of off screen still doing some of his maintenance on the serious wound that he's about ready to, finish recovering from. I don't see why a doctor couldn't get some small amount of chloroform.
I was trying to see if it was used for, like, insomnia as other, unwise drugs you shouldn't be taking, but take your uppers and your downers and you'll be fine, kids. Like, just be like, it's been really hard to sleep. Clara mentioned, could we just try a little bit of chloroform? Nothing else is working right now.
Yeah.
And that's why we need it at night, because we really can't handle another night without sleep.
Yeah, I just know that chloroform takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it's also pretty nasty stuff. I know at least one of the true crime things that I remember reading about, someone got acid burns because of the overexuberant use of chloroform in their abduction. So
honestly, Clara has a lot of violence. We'll double check when Alon gets back, but brass knuckles. She would have brass knuckles and a sap, and it's just like, you knock somebody out right to the temple. I've done this a few times. Like, she's not great at it, but she definitely had been, like, in the last 3 years in Pittsburgh, honing her violence skills in defense of her family.
Yeah.
Quietly in the corner.
You could always just give her heroin.
Don't have enough of a supply, but we could. We might. I can get more.
I don't know. Let's see what other options we have at the time. Because, like, that's important.
So,
heroin is a commodity.
Yeah. We've been discussing that we probably could get chloroform off of Dr. Nolte using your friends in influential places.
Oh, that's true.
And asking, like, hey, we've just tried everything to try to sleep. We know this is kind of weird, but sleep's been really, really hard since the injury. Can we try this?
Yeah, sure. Like, let's try.
Okay.
I feel like it's some, if you think that would be something a doctor would allow. I don't know enough about the 50s.
That's why you're rolling.
Yes, that is why I'm rolling.
Because it's not an assumed, it's not Tylenol.
Yeah.
You know, it's can you lean on Dr. Nolte in such a way that he acquires and then subsequently gives his patient access to a jar of chloroform.
This is totally fine. So I rolled a 7 and a 6, so that's 13 plus I think it's charisma.
I think so too, yeah.
I'm wanting to make sure that I'm actually adding something or not. I'm like getting all these good rolls. I'm like waiting for like my terrible one to like hit me in the ass.
Yeah, endure injury. 3.
Look, it's basically been my life. Yeah, it's plus charisma, so that's 16 and then -1 because I'm bad at enduring injuries. So that's a 15. So
okay.
Yeah, he's like, that seems legit, I guess.
He accepts. It's less about like convincing Dr. Nolte that your cause is legit, and more about gently but thoroughly making sure that he remembers exactly how much of his medical career is directly related to your family, of which you are now the titular head.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's a little bit more like that. It's like, hey, I need you to give the people that have essentially cemented your legacy some chloroform.
I'm gently nudging him towards malpractice. Just
ever so slightly.
Ever so gently, ever so sweetly.
Gently, sweetly. This is how a medical license is taken.
All right, we'll take care of him. He's a real person. He's not one of the little people. So
yeah.
He's individually useful in a way that you can like actually identify.
I like him. He saved my life.
Yeah. He got you out of crazy Oracle Mushroom Hospital.
It's true. He did get me out, and now he'll get me into chloroform. So we're all good.
Didn't we just try to get away from weird anesthetics? Anyway. All right. So, by the time you leave tonight, because, you know, what charisma doesn't solve, money can. You have a small, you know, oh, where's my camera? There you go. Small, like hand-sized, you know, Johnny Dollar-sized jar of chloroform, and an appropriately dramatic rag to press over someone's mouth.
Thick rag. Claire says thick rag. Everybody use gloves. This stuff is actually kind of acidic. It's used as a solvent. Be careful with it.
Yeah, it's kind of.
And this is basically like, I'm assuming that we're first approaching her, and if things go poorly, we're chloroforming her, or are we chloroforming her as like our like hello? I'm assuming it's the first, right? Like we're not.
We're gonna try to talk. This is the backup.
So I feel like that's a good thing. I definitely agree with your hand gesture showing that Clara is the one who should be holding the chloroform, as though all of her knowledge on how to use it comes from movies, that is 100% more than either of us. So like,
Clara's like, I already have the elbow length leather gloves for a piece I was in. We're fine.
She's like, I know what to do, and he's like, I believe you, baby.
Yeah, it's research.
Fine.
All right. Are we about ready to hop in the car and go to a closed cemetery at night?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Those loyal viewers whom we love very much know that usually we end up doing 2 things a night, and we're going to switch to the second one, which means before that, we're all going to get up, stretch our legs, top up our coffees and alcohols, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. and then we're all going to find out what the hell is going on with other Bethany, not Bethany, in the wonderful style of not Sasha.
How dare
So-
you?
I know. I'm audacious as hell tonight. I had refined sugar. It's my fault. So all right, we will see you at about 10 after 9. We're going to be gone for a minute, then we'll hop right back. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Welcome back and thank you. So we have done what planning we can for a voyage into an unknown place with a barely defined goal, which really, how else do we do things? We're about ready to go. Have you decided on bringing David or not, and under what circumstances you're going to?
I think we bring him and say, keep the car close. If you hear us screaming, or let's put it like, if you hear, David, we need you, bring the car around. Otherwise, just stay near.
Matthew's going to say that if we're going to have him around, we need to have him aware of the possibility of that we might bring a person for the trunk. If he's going to be around, we're not going to. He's we cannot spring that on him. But he also suggests that the person he will take it best from is Bethany.
Okay.
I mean, he's not trying to pass off the thing. It's just that historically he's taken things better from Bethany.
I shaved my head and I still don't have enough forehead for my eyebrow to travel on.
Look, I'm not lying here.
You're not. You're not.
You're not. Right. So, yeah, Bethany will look at David and go, we're going to meet with someone and it may be unpleasant and we may need to have a forceful conversation with them in a different setting. I don't think that is what's going to happen, but we're prepared to put that person in the trunk should it need to happen.
They are the person who's been actively trying to kill us.
Yes. To be fair.
Yes. That's an important aspect of this.
Mhm.
His response possibly might have contained a smile, but it's absolutely one that is well over into grimace territory. That kind of okay, not, honestly, Matthew would probably recognize this face the most, because out of the three of them, he spends the most time looking into the eyes of an addict.
Oh, goodness.
And so that I'm emotionally processing that something I really enjoy / crave / I'm addicted to is around, but for some reason I may not be able to access or use it.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I'm putting that in my back pocket. Matthew's just well, that goes right over here. It's always good to have more carrots than sticks for your employees.
Yeah. So he excuses himself with your permission for a moment.
Mhm.
He comes back a couple minutes later with what looks like some sort of a something or other that's rolled up. It's probably, fingertip to shoulder long. It smells oily, metallic, some other smells that you're probably not particularly used to. Cordite.
I was going to say, we might be a little more used to it than normal with our upbringing.
With firearms?
With not from us, but from the people around us.
Sophia didn't use firearms, did you?
That's true.
Clara's been training. She's got her little pistols and things.
Mhm.
That's been her foray into violence for the last 2.5 years.
You guys never really asked your old bodyguard, Sophia, what exactly she did to the person that stalked and got a little too obsessed with your sister.
I mean, just based on what we've experienced from watching her, my guess is ripped limb from limb.
I think the verb was disarticulated.
Ooh, yes.
Oh, well, that's a fancy way of saying that. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Clara, for one, feels relieved that there's a hidden gun coming with them. She also has her tiny little pistol and the sap that she keeps in her purse and her little set of brass knuckles.
I like that you have so many different like weapons.
Tiffany.
Yeah. A girl's got to have options. Like, deciding which dress and earrings you're going to wear. You need a few tools of violence depending on your mood.
I love it.
I just now have this mental image of someone making a set of brass knuckles with like some kind of ivory at the top, or something else that could be painted like fingernails, so you can paint your brass knuckles to match your manicure.
I want it. Clara would do that shit.
Oh my god.
Anyway, into the car.
No, I want it to be a jewelry insert where you can change out your fancy jewels into it, because I feel like that's easier, and depending on the hardness of the jewel, you won't break them.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Something like ivory or porcelain, you almost certainly would crack it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, into the car.
Anyway.
Our tools of violence are chloroform and our very loosely made plan.
This will be fine.
Yeah, plan so loose you can see light through it.
Clara is actually like looking at the clock and going, we should go now. I want to get there before she does. Her shift starts at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
actually, I'm gonna take off my jacket.
Whoa.
Probably not going in a jacket.
Jewelry, since we're gonna go do a crime.
Yeah,
I have the gloves next to me tonight, but
Yeah,
Clara
we get
has
it- we-
gloves.
we get in our blacks for the
Yeah.
crimes.
Okay. So you wanted to stop at the flop house, at that terrible cinder block place?
A swing bypass to see if it's crawling with cops.
Okay. Yes. It is not crawling with cops. There is some evidence of its use in that, like, the brand of the beer cans
Mm-hmm.
that are kind of nestled against the front of it have changed, but you know, it's a piece of shit flop with no address on the edge of an extremely on the edge of a growing, bustling metropolitan area. So someone's going to use it to do something illicit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we don't even stop. I think just look to see if there's lights in the windows and then keep going.
Yeah, and honestly, there's a real chance that if someone walked in there not carrying an unconscious woman first, that you could probably make anyone in here go away with $20-$50. You know, just
Yeah.
go drink somewhere else. Go ahead, go get a hotel room, boys.
Yeah.
You know.
Sounds good. And then off to the cemetery.
Okay. What is that? Woodlawn?
Woodlawn.
memory?
Yes.
Yeah. Woodlawn Cemetery. It looks like it did earlier today, but darker. So that's good. If you to refresh, the place that kind of grabbed your attention, there's a spot about in the middle on this axis and slightly one side on this axis that's kind of squared off. Does the cat have an addition to the plan? Okay. That's squared off and made more private than the rest of it with trees. So it's kind of like it's a little privacy area. So maybe that was an original purchase. Maybe that piece of land, because this Woodlawn has been added onto several times in terms of property purchases. So maybe that was an individual purchase. Maybe someone bought it and donated it. Who knows? Either way, it's got a privacy barrier of trees, and they're the kind that branch and bloom close to the ground. So it's not an oak tree where it's a bare bare trunk and then poof. So it's more probably evergreeny. So that's it. I mean, it's nice. It's private. You can see some shapes. There's a walkway. There's what is clearly the way in, if there is an actual burial occurring. Like, this is the way that people go in with a casket and do all of the rituals. But also, you would be entirely unsurprised if you walked down the edge of it, kind of towards the far side of the cemetery, if you wouldn't find at least one far more subtle and understated maintenance path. Someone's got to walk these trees, you know, someone's doing repairs and taking things here and there. So do you want to do anything specific before you? I know we don't typically do the, like, you know, every 10 feet do you check for traps. It is officially low light with torches every 30 feet. That's not what we do, but I'm wanting to make sure that we don't miss anything, that what's happening is what you guys want to happen in terms of planning and prep. So
I think Clara, especially now at night, would want to do enhanced awareness on the area to see if anything's changed or looks like a bigger risk, or some mystical traps been set for them that weren't there before.
That's yes, Matthew.
Oh, sorry. I'd also like to do a just observe a situation after she does that.
Okay. Don't roll a 9.
And then I want to query if, because it's
18. We're good. 18.
Okay. I just want to see if I should roll 6th Sense, because we're technically in a new session, even though we're in the same day.
Yeah, sure. Roll it. Yeah.
Great. Because that seems like a thing to have running right now.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay, well, I rolled 11, and I think it's plus soul, which is
Plus 87.
4. So that's a 15. Let me make sure my math's right on it. Yep, it's roll plus soul, so that's a 15 total. Cool. So I get to choose 3, but I'm holding all of them currently.
Okay. So you've got 3 chips in your back pocket.
Yeah, which is essentially like act first in the threatening situation is kind of the one that I'm most probably going to use.
There has yet to be a game system invented where go first is not a hell of a trick.
Yeah. That was mostly the, like, I would like to roll that now if it's happening, so that if I have a go first, I can have a go first.
Yes. However, let's also see how schizophrenic you are right now.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
You buys the ticket, you takes the ride.
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, that's a 14, but I'm at minus, I think, 2. Let me check my minuses.
But still middle road.
It's still in the middle, because I don't add anything to it. It's always a straight roll.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm at negs for no stabilities, but I have some. What is the thing I need? This one is it. Oh yeah, so I'm only at -2, so that's a 12. So
it's not a 9.
Not a 9. So
Okay.
It's not a 3, which is what I've been rolling. Like
Yeah. Now, Matthew, don't worry. Things are going to get stressful later.
You know, I was thinking about that.
We will be contributing to your nightmare shortly, sir. If you do not currently have a nightmare, one will be assigned to you shortly.
Well, I was actually looking at infirm for stressful, but like,
Are you do you think that Matthew is stressed out enough to have that infirmity flare up, or do you want to?
No, I would say that like we'll see what happens, and then I'll know.
Before we go off the air tonight, if I do my job in any way, shape, or form competently, we're going to stress Matthew the fuck out.
Yeah, like that's sort of my feel is like, you'll know when.
Yeah. But Clara, this would be a time where if you were by yourself, you would consume at least one illegal substance. So let's see.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, let's see exactly what species of primate is dwelling on your shoulders right now.
8.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
It is the orangutan from Discworld, apparently.
Mm. She's trying to. She's trying not to use as much, so she's rationing it, especially because she has to go back. So.
Yeah, rationing sucks.
Mhm.
Rationing sucks right now.
Yeah.
You are going to be stressed, so you are going to be at. I'm going to hold some -1s
Yep.
to give you on some of your rolls,
That
unless
makes
you
sense.
unless you achieve your medicated standard,
Yep.
and it's bad too. And you're like, well, I see crazy things better when I'm high. So really, there's and I'm calmer and I don't feel pain as much, and there's really just there's honestly really no negative drawbacks to being on heroin while encountering the soul-shattering supernatural, really. So I mean, honestly, it's
Well, now she just really wants to use. She's like, no, I think better and I handle myself better, a little relaxed.
at this point, it's best practices, really. I'm just the monkey I'm just the well-spoken monkey on your back, playing that terrible narcotics role or addiction role.
David's driving, right?
Yeah, David's driving.
That's why we brought him.
David doesn't give a fuck. David wrapped a beating extracted heart in his hoagie paper.
There's nothing we can. I'm not going to say there's nothing we can do to top that, because we probably will. But like at the moment, it's really hard to top that.
Yeah.
Clara in the back seat uses half of what she has. She really probably only has one more dose. So she's saving the other half for the end. Trying to ration it. But
now do your siblings see the dwindling amount that you have, or is that something that you keep more subtle?
No, I think they see it.
Okay.
Yeah, because she kind of pulls it out, goes, I need to be steady, we all do. I'm going to use some of this. I'm going to have to go back to one of those parties tomorrow. Just so you know, I can handle myself at a party, I know where to go, but this is all I have.
All right.
So she's honest, at least.
He appreciates that part.
David, his only commentary is to slightly turn up the music. Not a lot, but in that chauffeur, like, I'm going additionally blind, deaf, and dumb. This is me going deaf. And some local radio comes in. It's playing the hits of 1957. And you hear, there's some radio announcers, and it's Americana. It's that time. It's the late 50s. This is when the shine was so new that we haven't quite rubbed it off yet. Are things terrible? Absolutely. Are there minorities suffering like active deadly persecution? Yes. Are we still actively desegregating the school system? Yes. Jesus, it's a terrible place, but man, did they buff the fucker up. And so that's where we're at. And that's the music that plays, all that great like classic radio, the voices, the style, the ads are the best part. But right now you're here and we're dosed and we're nervous and we're vaguely sane. We're wired for sound, and so let's go.
Yeah.
So where do you have David pull into the Do you have David pull into the little parking lot, or do you have him like slow down for a Halo deployment? Like, what's your...
From my understanding, we want him to be a little bit away from the area, so I think that dropping us off a little bit away and then us walking there is the option that we're taking, unless I'm incorrect on that.
essentially the question is do you want him to be within theoretical shouting distance or no? Like that's the
We do want-
storytelling factor.
We want him within shouting distance.
Okay, then he finds a shadowy spot somewhere along the edges of the place you're at, the cemetery, and parks. And as you guys get out, he gets out, lights a cigarette, takes his jacket off, kind of slings it over the car mirror, and he opens the trunk of the car, and he clearly is presenting the classic painting American guy looking for something in his fucking trunk.
Excellent.
Of which he is a master. But what you do hear kind of as you walk away is the heavy rattle clack of a pump shotgun chambering, not a round, chambering a shell. So David, your almost war angel, is he kind of hopes there's a good chance he hopes things go wrong.
This won't be a problem.
This will be fine. Yeah. I haven't warned you about this for like 4 games running. This is fine. Everything is fine.
So, I still have my enhanced awareness, the 18 that I rolled.
You do. Yeah, you rolled the hell out of it. Good job remembering, because I absolutely forgot while I was
I was like, well, I'm looking for things. Wait, I don't know what I'm looking at. Okay.
You discern clear details regarding the location. Okie dokie. As you get here and as you walk around, now this shouldn't surprise Bethany. This isn't going to surprise Bethany. It's going to 50-50 surprise you two. Let's understand that Bethany is the one out of the 3 of you that has the keenest grasp on occult significance. None of you would be surprised if things get weirder at night. Like, that broad statement is true. Bethany could probably ramble your ear off for a solid hour as to the moon and night and observation and the sun being a purification thing and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. She could probably give you, like, in this essay, I will. At night, this graveyard is it looks like the entire thing is a root system. There is there are maybe roots or tubes or holes. There is a suction, a drawing in coming from many of the graves, not all of them, but many of them. If you imagine filling a sink with water and then draining it, and as you drain it, you bleed into it, and that kind of that liquid inky suction is the kind of feeling you get. There is a grasping, a pulling. It is as if something is seeking out what's in the graves as if they were nutrition. Walt, if I've got my dates correct, Walt Disney has filmed several nature documentaries, and some other places have as well. And so if you imagine the time lapse of the little pea, growing up out of the ground in the tiny little pale white shoots that will never see sunlight, shooting around, it's that kind of wriggly time-lapsey vibe.
Uncomfortable.
That
So that's uncomfortable.
it should be. The world is terrible and uncomfortable. So yay. Yeah, it's not great.
This place is feeding something. All of the death, every little grave is feeding into something. Probably what she's doing. And do I see a central area? Is it back in that tree copse?
Yeah, absolutely. Heading back towards the trees. You're not entirely certain. I mean, it's not a whirlpool. It's not active, high energy. It's very gentle. Like the plant analogy, and it is death, and it is leading. There's a downness to it. This is going under the ground, which isn't great.
Yeah. She's definitely working out of that area still. We should probably go find somewhere we won't be seen and see when she gets to work.
Yep. That's one way to do it.
I'm going to observe a situation.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Six and 7, but I think that's a -2 from me because I have -1, and then I have my injury. Yeah, my perception is not great.
No.
So that's 11.
Okay, you get one question.
I'm like, I've got to make it a good one. Okay. The two parts that I'm looking at are what's being hidden from me, or what can I use to my advantage.
Yeah, they're both good ones.
So hard to figure out which one I want. I'm gonna say, what can I use to my advantage?
You working with what you know, which is the idea that this squared off private area is where things are coming from. You're going to want to find somewhere to maybe observe it, and you think that you can find a spot that if you guys kind of crouch down, you'll be able to at least catch some, watch that area unobserved, at least get a little bit of a stakeout going on. It's not perfect, and none of you are particularly stealthy, but with a little bit of setup and some thoughts about, vision, lines of sight, you could at least probably be unobserved for a little bit.
So he'll gesture towards the area that he can at least assess as the best for us to kind of sneak.
Yeah.
And just for clarification, do we want to talk to her first or subdue her first?
Talk, I think.
Okay, that's what I'm checking with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want us to not be all on the same page on that.
Bethany very pointedly not verbally agreeing.
I'm just noticing.
I think first is fine. Talking first is fine.
Okay. So, a little bit of time passes. It's a little bit before 10 now. And so the first thing that happens is a surprise. Now, let's bear in mind that Mr. Davis, the character, the whatever you want to say, the manager of this cemetery, he hasn't been here for hours. He does not stay here till Demetria gets here, clearly. And so this place has been theoretically unobserved for a little while.
Yeah.
So a little bit before 10 o'clock, from the copse of trees walks a woman. Yes. Not driving in, not parking, not walking down the street. From the trees walks a woman. You see her basic shape first. The first painting is impressionist. You see black or dark hair. You see simple clothes. What looks like maybe, scandalously enough, maybe like a pair of work pants and a work shirt. and pale skin, and you can already feel her eyes. You can't quite see them yet, but you can already feel kind of the depth of their gaze. And as she walks a little bit closer, clearly she doesn't see you. She is looking right at the building. I mean, the look on her face is someone that's going to clock in. She is walking right towards the building, and yeah, so she walks right past you guys. As she gets closer, it is becoming abundantly clear immediately that, holy shit, it's Bethany. I mean, her cheekbones are the same. Her height is generally the same, plus or minus a couple of inches. Yeah, it's Bethany. So, I don't know really what else to add on to that. It's Bethany. There is a copy of you, or some version of you, walking past you within 20 odd feet, walking in, probably going to go punch in, you know?
Mm-hmm. Bethany is holding on to whatever they're hiding behind to not jump out and,
Your level best to annihilate her and reclaim your place as an individual in this world.
Yes.
Okay.
Clara
He's
wants
just
to let
gonna-
the woman punch in.
Yeah, Matthew's just gonna put a hand on Bethany's shoulder.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna.
He's not a puppy.
Sorry, no head pats for Bethany.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, let her punch in and see what she does at the very top of her night. Like, is she preparing a ritual? Is she just gonna check on the graveyard? Like, getting a little information before we pounce her.
Yeah, I thought I heard something upstairs, but clearly it's not.
Can I can I roll magical intuition to see that when not Bethany came through the trees, she was coming from the other death place? Like, because she walked out of the cops, that is the thin place where if you walk through the correct way, you end up in, like, the deadlands of something. I want to try to figure out if that's, because that's where she came from, and if that's where she's staying, was she just physically hanging out in the cemetery early, or was she, like, elsewhere?
I'm going to say that between the roll that you got earlier and the roll that Clara got earlier, you guys can have a quick head together moment. And let's remember that you two were by yourselves at Papa Mao's place for a little while. You were the two princesses for a little bit, and sometimes that bond still kind of flares up. And absolutely, she came from somewhere else. This was like she's not a hobo.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like a hobo. She looks like, I mean, good for her for bucking the gender norms. I mean, she's doing a dirty job. She's doing a late night job, and she's wearing men's clothes doing it. So kind of like, kudos, but she also seemed to have, stepped from a death place. And Clara, you've got, disagree with me and it will be fine, and I will not hold it against you. I would presume that Clara's got a better eye for like makeup and hairstyles and things like that compared to Matthew and Bethany. Like
Probably,
just,
yeah.
Like, that's what I presumed. I just wanted to double check. This gal dyes her hair. This is
bottle black.
Bottle black, yeah. Bottle black, but not obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not oily jet black. So either she's watering it down or she's using an off-brand. But kind of as she turns to go into the building, there's a light out where she's using her key to get into the back door, and you can absolutely see the Bethany colored roots.
Yeah.
Because her hair's the way her hair is, it's probably parted down the middle and kind of done up in something tight and easy to control.
Yep.
For the work she intends to do. And as you see that, you can absolutely see some Bethany blonde roots. So, all right.
Clara looks at her siblings and kind of gives a, "Is now good?"
And she comes out.
As long as nobody protests, Clara gets out her little pistol and steps forward and goes, "Demetria, you've been messing about with a lot of things, and we would like to have a long conversation."
Okay. Do you like when she opens the door, are you standing like right there at the bottom of the steps? Do you wait till she walks back into
Wait till she walks back into like the area where we are.
Okay. And you've got a little like the little
like 38, like tiny, like little 22. Her tiny little
Okay.
pistol that fits in a decent sized clutch.
Okay, for putting holes in people, not through people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Does Bethany also get it?
No, Bethany is still in the hiding place currently. She's trying to watch what's going to happen.
Well, Demetria's attention is clearly fixated on the lady in the fairly nice clothes with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew's mainly moving to cut off any exit she might have.
Okay. So you're going to like behind her, so you're kind of going to bracket her right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Just imagining what it would look like to the camera crew filming the movie standing on top of the building. She, like, when Clara comes out, she stops. And she stops like that kind of like walk, slow, stop. It isn't like, it's not a screech. And she's projecting an aura of being in control. And she says, and when she talks, it is absolutely Bethany's voice. But she has some kind of an accent. Somewhere north of New York City. Somewhere between upstate New York and New England. I'm not even going to attempt to recreate it because I'll mangle it. The only thing I can do is Pittsburgh and Minowegian. And so she pauses and she says, "Are you going to kill me?"
Not at this moment. Not if we can work things out. You have been trying to kill us, though, so I would like to have a very long conversation. If we were going to kill you, and that was it, it would have been done already.
Mm. There's some kind of mental calculus going on. Bethany, seeing a copy of yourself has, while your mental instability is generally like, second to third gear, Certainly, its grip on the icy road has started to slide. And first of all, the things are starting to do the Tim Burton wriggle.
Mm-hmm.
So things are starting to kind of spindlify around you. And imagine if you were looking at the world and no one told you that the world was in a lava lamp.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone turned on the light and things start to get flexible. And there starts to be a little bit of some floatiness. And you know, on some level, you know that it's just a visual artifact of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make it any better. And Clara is kind of starting to become a series of circles, like she's becoming kind of a stack of blobs. And Matthew is kind of extending. He's getting like a crystal skull sort of look where his head is extending back, and like you can like the corners of his mouth are pulling back. It's almost like his skull is growing, but his skin is not accommodating it. So all of his facial features are starting to pull and stretch. And not Bethany, Demetria is shadowing. It's like what she is swelling with bruising and darkness and dirt, and there's just it's almost like her personness is starting to fade. And there is however, a moment where she hits that perfect spot of uncanny valley on her way into less navigatable shapes. It's where she looks almost fey. Some kind of an almost human eldritch sort of vibe. And you have a moment where you say to yourself, is that what I look like?
Huh.
And so Demetria kind of turns her head, sees Matthew, looks back at Clara, identifies that she's got a person on either side of her, and she says, I'll go with, we can talk, but I'm not leaving. I'm not getting in your car. You're not driving me to the middle of the desert. If you want to talk, we can talk right here. And I know who you are.
Have you been the one who's been trying to kill us?
Yes and no. Let's walk.
Are you going to try to kill us now, if we're going to just talk?
Probably not.
I'm going to do read a person.
Okay, go for it. Didn't you take an advancement that gives you some more options for read a person? Yeah, look at that linear memory working.
Okay, so that is
plus intuition
-1 because of my tragedy. So net 0. That is a 10, so real close there. So I get one question. And I get my free question because I get to ask, no matter what, I get to ask, are you lying?
Yeah.
So that's the first one.
It's well, that's the kind of the answer to that isn't really a big surprise. She doesn't intend to kill you,
But is
but,
willing to.
you know,
Yeah.
if she's holding a heavy chunk of rock and you're looking the other way, I mean, chances are we all know what would be attempted next.
And I'm gonna ask for my second question. How could I get you to become an ally instead of an enemy?
You know what? You don't have the information to do that yet.
Valid.
But I'm going to recognize that essentially I owe you that answer. So that answer
I'm
is
cool
an
with that.
IOU, like sticky noted to
I'm
the
cool with that.
to the screen. So she starts
Okay.
walking.
He'll walk with.
Clara will follow, gun out, though she gives a flickering look in Bethany's direction.
Okay. I think for a little bit Bethany's going to follow, presumably.
Where is she walking?
Demetria is walking towards the copse of trees, towards the privacy area.
Matthew is going to be like, we can talk, but we're not going to talk in there.
Okay, that changes the tenor of the conversation. You can see that her comfort level goes down.
Yeah, she can deal with that.
Yeah.
He, like, if there is a like private-ish area of like the cemetery that isn't that copse of trees, that like he knows is her place of power, he will point towards there and be like, that's a neutral space for the both for all of us.
Well, there's just, it's a cemetery. It's a
Yeah.
I don't want to, it's functional, maybe the wrong word. It's a living
Yeah.
cemetery. There are places to sit. There are benches. There are, you know, all of those little spots and the little,
Let's
like,
go to
there's
the
a
duck
bench under a
pond.
tree. Yeah, there's all of that little, you know, impact reducing
Yeah.
frippery around this place of death. So yeah, I mean, it's you guys find, I don't know, a couple of benches that are across the little walkway from each other or something like that. It's not particularly open. Like, if someone really wanted to, if they were standing on the street, they could look in and see you guys. But also, it's, you know,
Yeah.
there's a reason that she picked that wooded in spot to perform or, you know, store her hijinks. So yeah, so she walks over to the benches and sits down.
Matthew will sit beside her.
Clara is standing slightly to the back with the gun still out. Clara's acting like Matthew's bodyguard and tough right now, and I probably will roll intimidating at some point during the scene, but having read that skill, I don't know that I want to use it right now because it seems very immediate.
Okay. You could roll to assist Matthew.
Okay.
I mean, you could just throw a little thug in behind it, but
Yeah,
what's Bethany doing right now?
Bethany did follow. She's trying not to initiate a confrontation with other Bethany with her physical presence, because that's gonna be a thing. Mostly what Bethany wants to do is, if Demetria starts to do a magic thing, Bethany wants to hinder her.
Okay. So essentially you're going to use one of your sixth sense holds in that, like, go first.
In that, like, go first. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll use the sixth sense hold to go first if she starts to magic, to roll hinder to see if I can stop her.
Okay. How about you just roll plus soul for me right now?
Okay. $13.
Okay. So noted. she's in the graveyard where she seems to be powerful, so there's definitely like a strong connection between herself and the ground. But she doesn't also seem to be that puissant herself. So, it's that like, okay, well, she's in her place, but it's at the wrong time. And, without the time, how good is the place? And that's the eternal question. Ha ha ha. All right. So, Matthew, with your fully supported by your very own Matahari.
Yes, and I got a 16, so
of course you did.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Matthew, for his part, is being quite pleasant because he's leaving all the intimidation up to Clara.
Yeah.
Good cop, bad cop. And he is
psychic monster cop,
right? And he'll just be like, so now that we have the basic greetings out of the way, perhaps you'd like to say why you were trying to kill us.
I don't think I want to, because you see, the people that I'm involved with take a very dim view of ratting people out. And you see, I've really got to consider my own skin. And
I think that you really should be considering your own skin in terms of right now.
Yeah, I know she's got a gun. I know that Clara has a gun. Matthew.
I did assume you knew our names.
But you've also got to consider that this is my graveyard, and you might kill me. Becoming a betrayer will definitely kill me. And I'm no stool pigeon.
I have many things I can do that don't involve a gun. This is just the easiest.
What did you roll on your Rita? Are you?
I rolled a 10. So I had the automatic "Are you lying?" and then I had one question.
Okay, yeah.
Which I had as what can I do to make you an ally and not an enemy? Which I did not have at the time enough information for, which is super valid.
Yeah. Well, right now it's she's implying that she's not doing this of her own volition.
Yes.
That there's an inciting party, that she's either a member of a group or someone is inciting her to this activity, which is very interesting. And she looks down at the ground and like looks like she sees something and kind of starts to reach down, and not in any way that's like, ooh, I'm gonna do something spooky, but it's just one of those kind of, reaches down, grabs a little piece of dirt or something like that. Looks like she's a futzer.
When she starts reaching down, Matthew will move his foot in the way and say, no. We're not stupid.
Then why haven't you left?
Because there are ways that we can make sure that you survive this if you give us the information that we need.
No, there aren't. No, there aren't.
Why haven't you left if you're so interested in survival? And these people are clearly threatening your life to kill other people you've never met.
Because of the bombs. Any further away and I can't touch them.
You're weak otherwise.
I don't see you pulling Kyraths out of the ground.
I don't need to.
What we want is to find a mutual goal. People are causing you to do this. People are actively threatening your life if you rat on them. People are actively trying, the same people are trying to kill us. We would like to kill them first.
They're not trying to kill you. They're trying to
Then-
scare you away. They're trying to get you to go away.
Why?
I don't know. I'm just the person that does the thing.
Then we need to talk to these people, and you are going to tell us who they are, or we'll force you to tell us. Clara comes up behind her with that and has shifted her gun into her left hand and has her heroin needle in the other hand. And she just slips up and puts it right against the woman's throat without using the depressor. And I would like to roll for intimidating now, but as she leaves the needle there, she goes, "Our name is Van Horst. You know who we are. We have many, many ways of making you speak and many friends in medicine and government. They've been experimenting on truth serum since World War II. It tends to mess people up, but right now I'm willing to use it so you can talk on your terms or you can talk on ours."
She's trying, it is clear that she is trying to keep this somehow professional. She is trying to keep this from getting personal, which is really weird.
Yeah.
But the needle against her skin, Clara, something weird happens. When you touch the needle to her skin, even just gently, there's a ripple. As if her skin has actively drawn away. It's imagine if you push on a piece of cloth and the whole cloth kind of dimples. It's that. It's subtle but also blatant.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you are rolling for your intimidate.
Yeah, should I roll? Actually,
Yeah,
roll?
go for it. Yeah.
Oh, 17
Oh, geez.
plus violence. Like, I'm having a good freaking night. Violence is 2, so 19. Oh, but I'm on a stress, so 18. But whatever. It is over 15.
Yeah, let me see. Is it called intimidation or intimidating?
Oh, let me look at what I got on my sheet.
It's
Intimidating is what I have on my sheet.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Oh, goodness.
I will also say, to me, it sounds very OP. Like, you are welcome to modify the answer because it says they succumb to fear and give in to your demands. And
Yeah.
this is more subtle. So
Yeah, some of the advantages work really good and some of them don't.
yeah. So modify as you please. Claire, I feel like Claire is being successful in being terrifying and kind of nasty as a human.
Okay. Something happens inside Demetria. There is a snap. It is almost audible. And she says, let me make sure I'm saying this right. Look, if you want to try to kill Salvatore fucking Clemenza, feel free, but I'm not getting killed by the mob. And we all know I'm not walking out of here alive because Bethany's gonna fucking kill me.
Sarah gently withdraws The needle.
Because she's been talking to me too. And she just kind of yells because she hasn't seen Bethany. You're not special. And she pauses, and there's Matthew, there's a lot that goes on her face where she realizes that the fear response that she gave to Clara signed her death warrant. And as you look at her, Bethany, I remember what you want to do. Her eyes start to sink in her skull. Like she immediately starts to become cadaverous. The fat of her face starts to almost boil or mist away, and her teeth lengthen. No, her teeth don't lengthen. Her gums recede, and she ages. And she does the first third of the dying Nazi thing from the Lost Grail, from the Indiana Jones movie.
Does it seem like something being done to her or something being that she is doing?
You're not entirely certain, but Bethany, you get to act first. She is doing something. She is reaching into herself, and she is going to cause something magical to happen. You can see that a little strand of this whirlpooly magic thing that you and your sister saw is actively reaching up like to her foot. She is dying, and she is trying to make contact with whatever network or feeder system she has set up ritually in this graveyard. And if she does, she is going to take at least one of you with her.
Yeah, I want to try and not let her make contact.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think you should be trying to act under pressure, or is there something more specific you'd like to attempt?
I mean, I was just going to... I can hinder, I could act under pressure. I can possibly...
You could pull her into the air.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true. I can. I would like to levitate her. Farther away from the ground. She's medium-sized. I'll take that stability knock.
So take the stability knock and then roll for act under pressure.
Okay.
Can I do helping?
Human.
No.
Okay.
She gets to do this because she is burning
she
one
has
of her
the thing,
sixth
yeah.
sense. She's burning one of her widgets.
My widgets. All right.
And this, if don't eat shit. Don't eat shit. Did you eat shit?
Mm-hmm. I don't think I can make it. Let me look at what the rolls are. It was a bad roll, guys. It was real bad.
It's okay.
You say that now.
I have an idea that I at least want to try after.
Okay.
We'll see if I just die.
I mean...
No, not that.
I will keep doing things to him. This was... what am I trying to do? Pressure. Oh, it's false coolness. This is still not going to help me. Actually. Oh, yeah. No, that's a 4.
Oh, Bethany.
5, and she has a -1 to coolness. She is not a cool human.
Oh, man, that's the least cool thing she's ever done.
It's
Wow,
cool.
that's intense.
Uncool.
Wow.
Yeah, no, uncool.
That's like wearing a button-up polo to a punk show. Uncool.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It was bad. Not good.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you 2 options.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to accidentally hurt your siblings? Or do you want to do the opposite of keep Demetria away from her death magic?
Oh.
So essentially, do you take a 10-foot chunk of shit with you?
Yeah, sorry guys.
Or do you accidentally kill her while she's still in contact?
No, I do not want to kill her in the death magic place. I don't think that's going to make her not exist.
Okay, we can take.
So I'm really sorry, especially to Matthew.
It's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Is everybody okay with that?
What type of let's try to resist some harm, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, so sorry.
Okay. Well, yeah. You know what? Let's say avoid harm. Let's roll plus reflexes. And then once we figure out how big of a plate of shit everyone gets to take a bite out of, then
Let's see.
we'll tell the story about it.
Oh God.
I thought I was gonna be okay because I rolled a 9, and I'm like, surely I have reflexes. I do not. I have a -2 on reflexes. So I'm at 7. Minus my stress, so 6.
Okay, so just look up endure harm next.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got an 11 because my reflexes are 1, so -1 plus 1
Okay.
cancels out.
Okay. Now, how much damage does telekinesis do?
Depends on what I'm trying to do with it. I get the roll plus soul, which I don't think I added because I think I did a straight roll for terrible times.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever actually rolled the telekinesis roll about it.
Okay, I'm going to say it's harm 2.
Okay.
Because that's launching a medium-sized object. And
That
it's
is in
kind of,
fact what I did.
yeah, you're throwing a bunch of medium-sized objects. Ooh. Okay. So what you guys need to do is you need to roll endure injury.
Okay.
And for Clara, that's with a -2, so plus fortitude -2. And for Matthew, it's plus fortitude -1, as you have avoided some of it. 15 or 2.
I got it. Oh, one of my dice is a 10, so I'm very excited. That is -2 because I have also the wound.
Because you have
fortitude.
a bad habit. Plus fortitude -1, yeah.
I just want to say that my fortitude is 0 and I still got a 15, and I'm very excited about that.
Okay.
Okay.
However,
Clara?
I'm
Okay.
at 12, and I'm at a -2 from that, but I'm at a -1 from the drug.
No! So close.
Oh,
Unless I don't know how you're doing the drug holds. If it's a constant, I had marked it as stress on my sheet.
Well,
or
you
if it
took.
changes. Yeah.
you got rid of the -1.
Oh, okay. Then I'm at 10.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I did not say that out loud or clearly, and I am sorry. Mea culpa.
Cool. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm at a 10. I'm still hurt, but not as bad as it could have been.
Yes. How about the injury throws you off balance, as opposed to lose something or receive a serious wound?
Oh, that's fine. I don't mind taking a serious wound either. But yeah, off balance is fine.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is it so because I don't have the same occult understanding as Bethany?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I want to have the big question of, do we have any idea that her connection to the ground while dying is the problem, or if it's just like no clue?
Probably no clue. Aside, probably later when Matthew's taking a shower, he went, "Oh yeah, they talked about that web of death underneath the graves." Yeah, that's probably what happened. But
so there's no way that I can really do anything because I don't know what I would want to do.
Well, one of the two people that's got a better idea could probably say something after we resolve and tell the story of this series of rolls of don't let her touch the ground, or something like that would give Matthew the actionable information. Okay, So
Can I suggest actually something that makes my life worse, which is, can I lose something, which is the needle? She had it. She had the other half of her dose physically in her hand.
okay, that's the one I was going to avoid because it felt a little mean.
No,
But
I failed my fucking drug roll tonight. Like, yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense to me, honestly.
Yeah.
Cool. You can always be mean to me, but that also makes story sense in my head. So,
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So Bethany's going to be back in a second. So right now, we'll wait.
It's important to be able to know whether or not like what Bethany will say or do.
Yes, because I want to see her whole ass reaction.
Yes.
So did I get any injury, or is it just
You actually no, you did not. You
Okay.
you avoided tracking harm.
okay?
It's just like it's from someone's probably going to PM me and correct me later, but from my understanding, it's like you get a serious wound or essentially nothing. Bethany sees Demetria start to do something probably deadly. Can a death magician do anything other than something deadly? Probably not. And we're not going to find out today because in a burst of, would you say panic or rage? What's the emotion that's annihilating your precision in this moment, Bethany?
Oh. Like 70 rage, 30 panic?
Okay. Yes. The effective ratio.
Clearly not.
Effective, not accurate.
Okay.
This was more of a to whom it may concern sort of moment. So what happens is that the not Bethany, the stone bench that y'all are sitting on, a not insignificant chunk of the ground, and you two are all kind of exploded out of the air or into the air. Not loop-de-loop style, not like flying, but it's explosive. Like, there's a lot of energy going into this, and you two are thrown probably a good 10 feet. And by that, I mean like the horizontal trajectory when you add in the rolling and the thudding and the bumping into something and the laying there for a minute with the wind knocked out of you. I'm not saying you had a 10-foot arc.
Yeah.
And both of you are bumped and bruised and hurt and probably moderately terrified because essentially a silent explosion just went off.
Yep.
Which is no big deal, which is no small deal. However, the bench and Demetria have gone straight up, and the bench has fractured in multiple places, so that's kind of more of a chunk of stone, and Demetria is smeared, for lack of a better term. It seems that she was doing something to her body. Something maybe terminal or God, what is terminal to a death mage? Like what is, does anybody really know what time it is? It's what is. And so the problem is that Bethany, in a moment of insight, mostly rage, but a little bit of insight, physically removed her connection to the graves that she was leeching on to provide her with a false sense of power. However, the cascade of her own physicality had already begun. And so, Bethany, what you are confronted with now is another copy of you, a sister, a twin, a soul partner. Who knows how you think about her right now, but she is stretched impossibly thin and warped and kind of beginning to rot. as if someone has taken a piece of roadkill and grabbed it at both ends and pulled. Finally, now the skin tension has failed and the viscera is coming apart, and there are things that are crawling inside Demetria. And here's the problem, and here's the thing that you have to figure out right now, Bethany. You could put her back on the ground and she would live some kind of a life. Now, maybe as a creature, maybe as an insensate hulk of half decaying flesh, maybe she would become something other, but she wouldn't die. Or you can hold her here with your own reality warping power and feel your doppelganger rot. And she is going to rot, and it is going to feel like she is rotting against your skin. Because this is your energy and your presence holding her there.
Still gonna do it.
Okay.
Don't think that she's at a point where she can answer any more questions for us.
Well, maybe you don't know. You don't know what happens. All of this stuff where you stop being a human and start being a something. Everything after that moment is Mad Libs.
Yeah.
You know, it's oh God, it's not Darkest Jungle because there's a bunch of bullshit connected to that, but it is unmapped, terrifying territory.
Yeah.
But
no.
It is terrifying how quickly someone who looks exactly like you abandons all pretense of personhood when they reach for their power. And she starts to rot. And the terrible thing is you can kind of hear her crying or begging or laughing, some sort of jerking body motion as her lungs liquefy. And as the marrow of her bones separates and starts to run through the joints, as her organs fail, and as her skin thins and blisters and pops. She's going to die, and you're going to kill her.
Yeah, it's true.
And in a quiet moment, it's wrong. It shouldn't, there should be no intimacy here. There should be no, but there is a voice against the back of your neck. And it whispers in your ear, don't let go. And the implications of that voice whispering don't let go to you in such a personal, right there way will stay with you for a while. And not Bethany attempts some sort of apotheosis and fails and dies, not weird death magic dies. I mean, she dies. And her soul is there. Her rotten, death-riddled soul is right there, Bethany. And she hasn't said it, but you know she's right there. And your promised lover wants to watch you eat yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
You You probably wouldn't be able to do this to anyone. It's probably because it's another you that this works at all.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, the Van Horsts have a history of shredding souls, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
I see you over there, Matthew.
Hey, buddy.
You eat her. You tear her apart, you flensed her, you peel her like a jackfruit
Mm-hmm.
into little juicy pieces, and you break her down and you eat her memories and the things that make her her. You see her crawling out of a sarcophagus. You feel yourself crawl out of a sarcophagus, far too young and bloody and nasty and screaming and cold and growing up in a place that doesn't have humans in it, and being chased, and these terrible behemoths of flesh and terror are somewhere around, but you know how to hide from them. And then you are found and you are cleaned up, and someone does something to you and they dull the edges of your memories, but they think they are gone and they are not. And then you are in a home and it is warm and it is comfortable and you are bounced on a knee. And it is just a home with a mother, a wet nurse, a caretaker, and you're not sure, but they die. Maybe of a heart attack, maybe they fall down the stairs, maybe they have a stroke. But you're too young to do anything about it, and you're too young to use the stove, and you're very, very hungry. And that is your first taste of death. And there are many others after. And you live a life of living close to death and dealing with death, but mostly in an abstract, bored sort of way. And then you hear a voice, and it's a voice that you know, Bethany. It's a beautiful voice. It's a lovely voice. It's a lover's voice. And she tells you things, and she teaches you things, and she holds you at night, and she tells you that she's proud of you and how strong you're going to be. And you realize now as she says this, you can't tell if she's saying it to you or if she's saying it to you. And then you find the power inside a graveyard, and you read a short story called Pickman's Model. And you think about churning underground between graves where no one can see you, and pulling the power out of them, the juice and the marrow, and collecting it and collating it. And you also know that you're going to have to die if you really want to learn this, but you don't want to because you kind of like being alive. You like pancakes, and you like a vodka on the rocks, and you like the way it feels when you have an orgasm, and you like the sun on your face. And even compared to an eternity where your body doesn't work anymore, the wrenching pain of menstruation even feels like a blessing, because it means that you're not dead. But death is a part of you, and it is around you, and then the first fucking bomb goes off. And you hear it. You hear it in your soul all the way somewhere in the northeast. And you start hunting and tracking and following, and you turn into an addict. And soon you can't do the show without your hit. And now you are as close as you can get. You are in Las Vegas, and you are doing terrible things. But you've got this problem. You're not really a planner. You're a responder. You're reactive, not proactive. And so when some fucking guy thinks that because he's got 8 inches and 50 pounds on you that he gets to decide when the date is over, and you rot his heart inside his chest because the fucking idiot decided to take you to a bomb party and not listen to you when you said no. Now there's questions. Now there's a guy that thinks you're pretty interesting, doesn't really want to know how, but he wants to know if you could do it again and you could do it to somebody else. And you say maybe. And he says good. And you do it once, and all of a sudden you're in. And not very often. I mean, you're stuck now. You don't know how to do it without the nuke. You don't know how to kill without that power buffering you. But my God, once you throw the bit and bridle on that fucking mushroom cloud, though, you can do anything you want. You can pull anywhere from anywhere. You can kill anything. And if you saw God in the middle of that glow, you think you could kill that son of a bitch too. And you'd love to, because you know that if he cared one fuck about you, that he would have never, ever let you crawl out of that meat-packed sarcophagus. And then if he ever gave a fuck about any kind of peace or kindness, that he would have let that ritual that took your memories away work. And he would have made some fucking food show up before you got so hungry. And now all of that is a piece of you. They are not your memories. They are a room. They are a series of rooms you can walk through. They are not kind rooms. They are not nice rooms. But there is another Bethany wrapped around you now, like a thread to a cloth. And you are draped in the promise of so many more. And the last thing you remember from this infinite instant is the sensation of the lady in red being so proud of you. But in that way that you know that she'd have been just as proud of Demetria if she ate you instead.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't make you crave her any fucking less, does it?
No. She's just trying to make the best one of me, and I'm going to be it.
That's the Horst in
That's
you talking.
sister.
We're very proud.
All right. And useless, wasted fragments of not Bethany plop on the ground like from the ass of a draft horse. And what has Bethany looked like this whole time? All of this has been ephemeral, psychic. You get a lot of leeway here, so feel free to go nuts.
Okay. Oh, gosh. Feel like that in play physics land, first of all, because Bethany overshot in equal and opposite reaction,
the thing that she doesn't realize that has happened is she's sunk into the ground, like about 4 inches
Okay.
into the ground, firstly, from the explosion, the mini explosion in the air, and there's a weird shadow wrapping Bethany that is the shadow that Demetria was turning herself into. So Bethany is a small glowing silhouette, like a reverse silhouette, because she is small and pale and backlit by shadow of the soul she just consumed. And looking off at things that none of her siblings can currently see.
I feel like during this time, like Matthew has gotten up because like we were thrown. He like will check to make sure that Clara is okay, that she is okay, even though her needle is tragically not.
Clara is unharmed, but she is in full inappropriate for public panic mode.
Yeah.
I'm going to use one of your addiction holds and give Clara a little bit of a mandatory meltdown.
Yeah, no, she's realized, like, in the falling and the throwing, the gun was the important thing to keep in her head because she doesn't want to accidentally shoot one of her siblings, and in case they have to fight, that's like their best weapon. But now that she has fallen and that person isn't attacking them, she's reaching on the ground, just trying to find in sand the other thing that was in her hand, and it is not there. And things hurt because she's bruised. She's not like really damaged. She's covered in sand. It's really gross. It's uncomfortable feeling. She's kind of hurting, and she doesn't know where her needle is, and she's just quietly freaking out. Gives one look over to Bethany, sees that Bethany is still standing, if slightly strangely.
Well, hold on just a second.
Oh.
I'm going to pause you right there.
Yeah.
Matthew, you get a few moments with Bethany before Clara gets her mental feet under her. You have this moment. You too, okay, correction. You too have this moment to shape Bethany. I know that it's a sibling relationship, but I'm referencing the moment in Dune after Paul kills his first man. And Jessica goes, I have to make him hate killing or he will become a murder addict. So you are facing a similar situation where Bethany has done something for the first time, and you are the sibling that is here to help her reconcile that. What do you do?
Oh no, this is the worst person for this.
I know!
Oh no. Okay, so Matthew has, in a way, killed a form of himself before. Specifically, that when we all went to Inferno and he saw a possible aspect of himself, his first response was to murder it. As well as kind of backlash on himself. He was in a bad place at the time, but like, you know.
As opposed to now, when he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine now. And he sees her with like this sort of shadow around her. Is he able to tell that like she is still her and she is triumphant? That is my question. Or does it seem like it's still trying to eat her?
One of them is intact, the other one has melted.
Okay.
I feel like that's a clear indicator of who ended on top. The not melted one. Just
he will walk towards her, and does she allow contact, like physical contact? Because I don't want to like assume that she does.
No, she will allow physical contact, I think it's going to take a second for her to realize that it's happening. Like she's not there. She is in several mental places, but yeah, and there is probably like extra energy feeling like off of her body, like the feeling that you can reach towards someone and like feel that they are feeling something before you touch them by, an aura, I guess. So you have that's happening. Bethany is gently projecting an aura of feeling before you get to the actual skin part.
So he will put his hands on her shoulders, and he will call her name essentially to try to bring her back in a way, because she's kind of away in a lot of ways. And we'll just say, Bethany, this is why you're you. You will always be the one who wins.
I intend to.
Bethany, set your stability to whatever your standard is.
Okay.
And Horsts are on top. This is fine.
Because sibling-supported psychic self-annihilation is actually pretty cathartic.
Yeah. Yay.
The Van Horst way is to just always make sure that you're the one in power, and that's fine. That's not going to be a problem.
Okay. So, Matthew, in a moment, pretty kind of recenters Bethany in a fairly blunt but effective way. And this is where, when Clara enters into the moment, I think you were kind of scrabbling around a little bit.
Looking for a thing. Yeah, but it's not there. It is very dark, and there's a lot of sand, and it's not there. So, and she loves her siblings, and she's worried. So she kind of pulls her head out of the sand and just off, and just looks. It's just trying to confirm that they are both okay.
Matthew will reach out a hand to her because he can tell that she's distressed, but he's like, it's dark. He doesn't see why. Yeah. So he just reaches out a hand to her to try to bring her towards them.
Yep. Stands up and looks at Bethany. Are you okay? Are you all right?
Yes. I am. I think I'd like to take a shower.
We should get out of here.
We all should.
Yeah. I'll get David.
Did we got what we needed, right?
I have the name.
Good.
Salvatore Clemenza. So we got what we needed.
There is a different but terrifying force coming down the side of the cemetery. There is something of profound destructive menace. Like, this is opening night of the first Halloween movie menace. Coming down, it is almost tangible. And while Demetria was death, and she was the grave, and she was rot, and she was what happens afterwards, this is the force that introduces you to what she worshipped.
So I really hope that I'm right. And if I'm not, it's going to be real awkward.
Okay, roll the dice.
But Matthew will look towards that sensation of like the thing that brings you to death.
Mm-hmm.
And say, thank you, David.
Good guess.
And it's very much in that sort of thing of like, leashing. Oh yes, it is our Deathbringer. I'm so glad you're here.
And yes, and his response is to look at you and say, I heard an explosion. But when he says it, it is in a series of noises that are only incidentally sound like language. And it is the grind of metal and the squelch of a boot in trench mud and the rasp of cutlery on a tin ration can and the snap of bandages and the rattling of policed brass in a bucket. And he is holding a shotgun.
He will gesture to the pieces of Demetria and say, there was an altercation. It happened very quickly, though, before we could call for you. And I'm glad that you're here now.
We should get out of here. That's the woman that tried to kill us.
Not no more.
Yes.
Are we leaving?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll get the car.
Thank you.
And when he turns, it is like something folds itself back into him. It is like a piece of explosive origami reconstructs itself and wraps itself. And much like a piece of folded paper that is multiple pieces, you can now kind of, as it assembles itself, almost imagine you can see the pieces that are David painted slowly returning to the outside. And he walks away. You hear him safe the shotgun and go get the car.
We will follow.
Yeah.
You get in the car and drive the hell away?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's good, because it was a little loud.
It was a little loud.
Not explosion loud, but certainly something went wrong at the Woodlawn Cemetery loud.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it sounded to me like you guys left in about 2 or 3 minutes after.
Yeah, we
After the crack of
skedaddled.
boom. So yeah, fucking ski diddly daddle.
Mhm.
Okay. Are we content with driving away and executive producer Dick Wolf?
Yes.
Executive producer Old Curtis.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out what terrible thing happens next. Maybe find out who the Salvatore Clemenza guy is. But until then, stay safe, be smart. We thank you, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Hello. Welcome. Please remain seated. Stay calm.